So, hi everybody, and welcome to episode 89 of Level Up. 60 minutes, of course, of live Q&A, where your questions and votes really do drive the show. A very warm welcome to everybody who's joining us today on LinkedIn and on YouTube. Please do let us know in the chat whereabouts you're joining from. The city and the country would be fantastic, together with your name. We do, of course, love to hear from you and get everybody involved. Adriana and Ella are over online as our social team today, and they will be posting a link into the chat for you to vote up the questions that you would most like answered, and of course to add your own. We live stream Mondays at 8 and Fridays at 2 p.m. UK time to both YouTube and LinkedIn. Now, if your question is selected, then not only will it be answered by the panel, but also your name is going to appear in the credits at the end of the show. So do get those questions in early and stay with us to see that happen. Today, we're going to be talking about how to lead in an agile environment. Leadership, of course, is posted regularly and frequently into my LinkedIn feed, at any rate. Sometimes it's a pastel-coloured inspirational quote or a list of, quite frankly, things what not to do as a leader, which is less inspiring perhaps. But in the real world, how do you actually lead a truly agile organization and create the culture for self-organization, which lies at the very heart of the Agile Manifesto? Well, joining us today, we have a highly experienced panel who have been working with our clients to do exactly that, and I'm sure they're going to help us figure it out. So let's start and introduce them. So Farah Heba is product owner and trainer at Aedger, where she has developed her digital project and product management skills. Farah has a passion, of course, for sharing her knowledge and works closely with her clients to fulfill their potential. Welcome back to Level Up, Farah. Great to see you.
Hi, Nick. Hi, everybody. I'm really delighted to be here with you today. Thanks for inviting me again.
Okay, excellent. Thanks so much. Katy Mirzaie is Organisational Transformation Partner at Baringa Partners, where she specialises in enterprise agility, restructuring and change. Katy always focuses on helping her clients deliver their chosen strategy effectively and efficiently. Welcome back to Level Up, Katy. Lovely to see you.
Thank you, Nick. Great to be here. Looking forward to this session.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks so much. I'm sure we'll be tapping into your experience momentarily. Ashish Garg joins us again. He is, of course, General Manager over at HCL Technologies and has built his career in the IT services industry, having led a range of complex global implementations across geographies and cultures. Ashish has a really great grasp of what it takes to get all of this done. Welcome back to Level Up, Ashish. Lovely to see you.
Thank you so much, Nick. It's always interesting to come back, and with such an amazing panel, you always take back something. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Etienne Shardlow is a senior consultant and lead trainer with Symphonise Consulting, who work with organizations to align their IT and business strategies, always with an eye on the human dimension. Etienne works tirelessly to help his clients achieve their goals. Welcome back to Level Up, Etienne.
Hey, it's good to be here. Thank you very much for having me back. Looking forward to a very interesting discussion.
Okay, fantastic. And completing our panel today is Nandhakumar. Nandhakumar Swaminathan is a project director in the IT industry with first-hand experience of product development, production, and escalation engineering management. A true lifelong learner, Nandhakumar is also a regular contributor, of course, here on Level Up. Welcome back, Nandhakumar. Great to see you.
A very good evening from Chennai, India. Thanks again, APMG, for the invite, and looking forward to a great session.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're probably interrupting your evening meal around now, actually. So thank you very much for holding off from the family get-together and joining us on Level Up. Our question master for today is Jenny Hepler, and she is joining us from the city of the Three Rivers, Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania. Welcome to Level Up, Jenny. Lovely to see you.
Thank you, Nick. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm really excited to be on my first Level Up episode as the question master. So I'm looking forward to a really great discussion today with the panel.
Absolutely right. And of course, the entire show is driven by the audience. So if you're watching online, and I can see lots of you actually are over on the social chat, then please do let us know that you're there. I've already seen Peter is online today. Agogo, welcome back, Agogo. We've seen you before on previous episodes. Thank you very much for joining. Angelo, brilliant to have you with us as well from the Dominican Republic. So fantastic. So very good. Now, on that note, I think we should jump straight into the questions. So Jenny, may we have our first question, please?
Sure, Nick. So this one is from Lila. Could the panel share their thoughts on the importance of creating a trusty environment for an agile leader?
Okay, Etienne, start us off on this, please.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things about Agile is everything is happening very quickly. And as we need to be so responsive and respond to detail as it emerges, we need to be open, we need to be honest, we need to be transparent. And so it's really important for an Agile leader to create a culture of trust where the team trusts their manager, the manager trusts the team, and we feel comfortable sharing when things are going right and sharing when things are going wrong.
Absolutely. Thank you so much indeed. Farah, your thoughts, please, and then we'll hear from Ashish.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Etienne has just said. For me, trust is just two ways. Agile leaders need to trust their team and to be trusted as well, as no one would follow someone they do not trust. Also, something else I want to add is that it takes time to build up. Trust takes time to build up and is easy to destroy. So it's really a key component in the relationship that the Agile leader creates with the team, and it's something that is nurtured by honoring commitments, by not micromanaging, by being honest, and it can have a tremendous impact on the team productivity and efficiency. So definitely, it's really important when the leader creates that trust environment within Agile teams.
So very eloquently put, very, very important indeed. Thank you so much indeed, Ashish, and then Nandhakumar.
Sure. So yeah, I think I echo the thoughts of the other panelists. Trust is really the foundation of being an agile leader. If we kind of go back to what being an agile leader means, is that you are able to create an environment where you are allowing your team to perform, right? So you're not moving into the nitty-gritties of the work that the teams are doing. And to be able to do that, you have to build a trust environment, which is where essentially first you have to demonstrate as a leader that you are trusting your people, right? And then vice versa kind of starts following, because people observe and see that my leader trusts me and is backing and has my back, right, on anything that I do. I think it's very important, and it's really the fundamental of calling yourself an agile leader. So yeah, that's
absolutely right. Thank you very much indeed. Nandhakumar, and then Katy.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a very good question. And I think my responses would be mostly I do agree with all the other panels, and some of my responses would be a bit of rewording of what Ashish also said. I do agree with him on a lot. But one of the key things is Agile is all about human interactions. And for any amount of human interaction to succeed, trust is the founding principle. And the key is you need to have a two-way trust. I think that's already been reiterated by others. But it's a key where it is not about creating a one-way trust, but it's about a two-way trust where you open and honest communication, which sets the wheel going, and it kind of sets the foundation. So, in short, there's no doubt that this is one of the most important and one of the most, I would say, as founding principles for any agile leader who wants to have a very good agile environment setup.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Katy, final thoughts on this?
Thanks, Nick. And just to add to all of that, creating a culture of continuous learning and creating an environment that encourages testing and trying fast and failing fast and learning fast is a very, very important agile principle. And psychological safety and trust are the fundamental characteristics of an environment where we can encourage fail fast, learn fast, and the whole culture of continuous learning.
That is such an important thing to be reminded of. Thank you so much, Katy, because it's not about, sometimes people feel that leadership is all about making the right calls. You can't make the right calls all the time. What you need to be able to create, as Katy's just said, and everybody's, kind of said before her, is this environment in which you can, try something out. Okay, and if it doesn't work, then you kind of learn from it and you move on to the next, and that is the way forward. And being able to cope with the little bumps in the road as well as you cope with the little successes that you gain is such an important characteristic. So fantastic. What a great question to start the show. Thank you so much, Layla. Now, if you're watching online, and I can see many of you are, then please do post your questions for the panel. And I can see the questions stacking up. So Jenny, if we can, please, let's take our next question.
Sure. So our next question is from Matt. Do you consider that agility is a critical leadership skill in today's fast-paced environment?
Okay, so critical leadership skill. Farah, start us off, and then we'll hear from Katy.
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I would even say that the word is crying out for agile leadership. I mean, a business cannot accomplish much without good leadership. And today, with all the sudden changes and the uncertainty, learning agility has become like a critical skill. It's no more a nice to have. It became like a must have. So by learning agility, I mean learning to grow from mistakes, to be flexible, to listen to others and all that stuff. You would be a better leader. So according to me, it's really a critical, let's say, skill to have today. So it's also like a huge asset as companies mastering the agile transition successfully are seeing like higher client satisfaction and employee engagement. So leading to enhanced profitability.
Thank you so much, Katy, and then Etienne.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And just to add to that, a very interesting observation we had on the back of the pandemic was a lot of leadership and organizations coming and saying, we managed to achieve what we never thought we would be able to achieve during the pandemic. And what they meant by that was before it took months to just get one IT ticket sorted, where many organizations managed to move thousands and thousands of people to remote working over a week or two. So everyone kind of like came and asked, how do we bottle up that magic and repeat it in like really normal situations? And that leadership of agile leadership, being able to have the focus and flexibility and agility, and most importantly, empowerment that needed to let people really focus on what matters most, is the characteristics of an agile leader, which is very, very much needed for an environment that we are operating today, which is the very fast-paced environment you have mentioned. Great question.
Thank you so much indeed. Etienne, and then Ashish.
Yeah, I have to agree with Farah and Katy. It really is a critical skill. Even organizations that are still very traditional in their kind of project management approaches and their leadership styles are finding that the world is moving on too quickly for them not to be agile. And so even in traditional projects, you'll find lots of agile elements are starting to creep in. And there's no real, these days, most projects tend to be on some kind of spectrum between traditional approaches and more agile approaches. And the question really is how agile we need to be. And you can't be, you just can't operate in the current world that is moving so rapidly and changing so quickly without some level of agility. And so agile leadership skills are critical in any environment.
Absolutely. Thank you so much indeed. Ashish, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I really love the example that Katy spoke about the pandemic. I mean, that really brought about a change in mindset in a lot of people, right? So even the most traditional leaders had to kind of quickly think on their feet and figure out, okay, what next? What do we do now that folks are not coming to work? And it was not just about one specific industry; it impacted every single industry around the world, right? So be it production, be it services or manufacturing, everywhere we saw the impact. So agility and is definitely critical because it helps you to adapt to situations that are happening, allows you to be forward looking in your thought process. I think that's the most important aspect, right? As technology changes so fast, it is important that we are able to think on our feet, be forward looking, have a mindset that yes, we need to adapt, and what's failed has failed. You can't kind of spend time brooding over it, so you need to learn from those mistakes and move ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed. Now, I think the pandemic is a really, really good example to use because it's pretty recent for us. It's also, the kind of, situation that, we all remember, really well. We can kind of relate to everything that was happening at that time, and we can kind of think to ourselves, how was it that we were all able, to kind of pull together in such an amazing way over such a short period of time? We had organizations who were in highly regulated environments who managed to jump through hoops to be able to do amazing things in terms of delivering customer service, particularly to their, I would say, most vulnerable customers. They were able to do that. And also, from that work, we were able to see a revolution in the way in which people have been working together. So wherever you were in the world at the time, whether you were in West Africa, hi Emo, great to have you on the show, or whether you were in another part of the world in Europe or in the US or so on, there was some incredible work that was done at that time. So, with that in mind, let's move on a little bit if we can. And I think we should take our next question, Jenny.
Thank you, Nick. So this one is from a live viewer. This is from Diane. As an Agile leader, how can you mitigate against compromising on quality to achieve the continuous benefits?
Okay, Farah, start us off and then we'll hear from Ashish.
So, first of all, I would say that within Agile frameworks, and if your team or your company moves into that way of thinking, it's not a matter of compromising quality. Agile does not mean compromising quality. It means that you define a level of quality that meets your client's need, that meets your internal team's need, which means that every time you have something that pops up from nowhere or that was not planned, it's a matter of prioritization. So you're not going to provide something that is lower quality just to make sure that it is done or that you have provided it to your client. So agility, I would just summarize it like this. Agility means defining the right level of quality and defining right prioritization process.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Ashish, your thoughts, please, before Katy.
Sure. So, see, quality is always a constant, right? I mean, irrespective of whether you are a traditional leader or an agile leader, or you're working in a traditional, waterfall kind of a project model, your quality is always given and constant. Right? So you wouldn't do anything at the cost of quality. So you are not going to say that I'm going to service my client and kind of do better and quicker and faster, but I will compromise on quality. That's not what anybody is expecting of us. So I think quality is always given and constant. That doesn't change. I think what you need to be able to do is understand that agility is about, again, going back, it's about adapting to the changes that are happening, understanding that the world can change, understanding that technology can change, and then how do you deliver the best in that environment. And like Farah said, it's about prioritization. So you need to ensure that you are able to pick up the right battle and win it, but you can't compromise quality irrespective, right? So I think quality is always a constant in our world.
Thank you very much indeed. So important to keep that in mind. Otherwise, you're going to lose the very essence of what your organization stands for if you compromise on quality. So let's move on if we can. Katy, your thoughts, please, and then Etienne.
Sure. I'll completely agree with the panelists before. The one thing I want to add is I think there is a myth in the market that is kind of like the myth of command and control, that if the leaders keep control and therefore they will get higher quality, a lot of studies have shown that actually that's quite the opposite, and the people closer to the work are more able to generate higher quality and make higher quality decisions. And to the point that was raised before, I would say, if anything, agility and agile framework would allow you to catch lower quality outputs sooner than it's too late, whereas in traditional models you could catch them when it's too late.
It was a remark that a gentleman made from actually Amazon. He worked for Amazon, and he was saying about the kind of minimal viable product, and he said, try if you can and insert the word beautiful. Okay, into that, because if you insert the word beautiful, it kind of gets you to stop and think about the quality dimension. So it was just a little thought anyway for your consideration. Excellent, thank you so much, Katy. Etienne, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, I really like that idea of thinking about the beauty of your minimum viable product. Quality, as the rest of the panel have already said, is something that is almost built into and inherent in agile approaches. So we never compromise on quality in an agile environment. And there's a number of ways that we do that. And one is prioritization, as we've already said. If we can't deliver something of good quality, we don't deliver it unless it is a must-have, and then we'll sacrifice some of the nice-to-haves so that we can focus on the quality and the must-haves. But there's other ways that we build quality in, and that's through some of the other agile kind of methods. Iterative development allows us to fail and fix so that we deliver quality. We also have a focus on test-driven development. So we figure out what the quality requirements are. We figure out the testing requirements for those quality measures, and then we build the thing so that it passes the quality tests. And so quality is something we build in from the very beginning, and it is just never compromised in an agile environment.
Yeah, I totally agree. And what a fantastic question, and amazing breadth and depth of answers from the panel. This is at the heart of it, isn't it? You need to be able to continually encourage improvement, and that improvement can come from so many different areas of your organization, that trying to kind of retain this command and control and re-centralize command and control and so on, it's really a hiding to nothing. You will start to feel more and more in an agile world that you understand less of what's happening in the detail in your organization. But you know what? That's actually probably quite a good thing. That's probably quite a good thing, because it shows that you're trusting others in order to be able to get done what needs to be done. And then, through their work and through that dialogue and through that constant communication, it's incumbent on everybody to join the dots and make sure that they're living the values, the mission, the vision, and the purpose of the organization that you're working for. So brilliant answers, panel. Thank you so much indeed. I'm super enjoying all of the comments in the chat as well. I just want to pick out one person, Abhishek, who was talking a little bit earlier. He was kind of saying, oh, there you go. Thank you so much, TD. Agility is everywhere, whether it's in IT, in the supply chain, opting for cloud migration projects, and so on and so forth. It's all around us, and I could not agree more. I'm just coming to low code and no code type work at the moment, and I'm really enjoying learning how to do that, even at my ripe old age. So very good. Excellent. Thank you so much. Jenny, I can see the question bank lighting up as well. So we've got lots of live questions coming in. On that note, can we take our next question, please?
Absolutely. So this one is from Ali. Is there any conflicts between agility and quality in manufacturing scope?
All right. Now, in a manufacturing environment, whether it's discrete or process manufacturing, Katy, why don't you start us off with your thoughts, and then we'll hear from Ashish.
Sure. So I'm actually coming from Lean and Six Sigma background, and I would say a lot of principles of Lean and Six Sigma are very similar to the principles of Agile. Again, I think there is a little bit of a myth in the market that when we talk about the whole idea of failing fast, learning fast, or agility, it means no planning or it means no chaos. All agility gives us is to be able to shorten the feedback loops. And again, if anything, being able to test whether we're producing is of the quality that we expect it to be soon enough for us to then be able to get on with the production. And I would say there are many similarities between the concept of just in time in manufacturing and the whole idea of MVP or delivering value in increments. Of course, like different concepts in a sense that one is about inventory, one is about product development, but the ideas behind it around delivering to the customers the value they need when they need it and into the increments they need it is very, very similar.
Yeah, absolutely right. There's a kind of a competition at the moment, I think, to staple words together. So you kind of get agile leadership, and then you get lean agile leadership, or agile lean leadership, and so on. I know that it is distinctive, but at the same time, we need to kind of really understand the terms, I think. So we might come back to you, Farah, for a little bit of a kind of summary of that a wee bit later. Ashish, your thoughts on this, please, before we hear from Farah.
Sure. I think quality is very important in a manufacturing environment, right? Because when you are there and you have manufactured something, the cost of recall is way too high, be it automobiles or be it any other sector that you may think of. Right? So it's very critical that while you are in, and let's understand the basic concept of being agile, right? Agile means that you're able to adapt to what the market needs. You're able to sensitize your staff and your production life cycle. If you're talking specifically in the manufacturing space, to be able to understand what the markets are looking for. And quite often the way things are changing, your customers change and their needs are changing very, very fast, right? So if you have a long life cycle to bring something into the market, you're not able to fulfill the requirements. And by the time your research that you had done, when you conceptualize the product and when you brought it, it's too late. Nobody's ready to buy your product. So the concept of agility in a construction, in a manufacturing, or in that kind of a production environment is where you are able to bring in and test your products and kind of see how they are accepted in the market, and then you are constantly building on it, right? And technology has kind of come so far now that we're talking about 3D printing designs, right? And that's really a classic example of how you bring in agility into your entire manufacturing environment. That you are doing a 3D modeling and you're actually using AI and VR now to see the entire reaction and how the end product would look like. That's an example of agility, and you're not compromising quality anywhere because it's way too critical.
Okay, thank you so much indeed. Farah, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I would say that agility and quality in manufacturing scope are kind of complementary. Let me explain. So when you are like on a production line or something, at some point when you speak about quality management, you're going to speak about upper limits, upper specification limits, lower limits that would define what is quality according to your clients and to your production sets. So at some point, if there is something that is out of these limits, you're going to discuss it. You're going to share feedback to look for the reason, to try to figure out how to avoid having this mistake again and again. And within agile frameworks and within agility as a mindset, we already have that culture of feedback, that culture of searching for the root cause, or discussing and trying to figure out how to avoid to make the same mistake or to have the same problem. So when it comes to quality, whether you are on a manufacturing scope, industry, or on services, it's kind of the same. Agility will bring you that shorter feedback loops that you will need to try to figure out problem sources, root causes, and to make the best of your line, your production line, or your best of your services.
Okay, thank you so much. So just before we kind of leave this, I mentioned this little phrase a wee bit earlier panel about lean agile. Now, is that a real thing, or is it a kind of marketing mashup? Etienne, let me come to you first, and then Katy.
Well, I think it is a little bit of a mashup, but a lot of the concepts and ideas in Agile come from Lean. Yeah, and if you take Lean and you take Agile one step further and you kind of put them on steroids, you kind of end up with DevOps. And so a lot of these ideas are kind of all intertwined.
Okay.
And so
now we got
I think
we've got a third
Agile,
one to cope with as well. Now we've got a third one to cope with as well. So we've got Lean, Agile, and DevOps. So okay. So before we expand all of the way through all of the methodologies, yeah, I agree. There's a lot of DNA here, which is shared in both of those ways of thinking. Thank you so much, Etienne. Katy, in your experience, is it real and distinct, or is it a mashup?
Great question. So if I go back to about 7-8 years ago, when financial services started adopting the whole concept of agility and enterprise agility from tech companies, one of the pushbacks that I remember people were really worried about was, but we're doing Lean. This seems to be contradictory to it. And this seems to not work with that, because you talk about, a lot of people again thought Agile means do whatever you like, and there is no plan, there is no kind of like accountability and responsibility. So I think the Lean Agile as a concept was created to showcase that, in fact, if you think about Lean, what is Lean about? Lean talks about voice of customer. It starts from voice of customer, then deliver value to customer end-to-end through value streams, measure what matters through measures, be mindful of mindset and behavior of people, and have visual management and root cause problem solving. Every single one of those areas shows itself into the world of agility and Agile. So in fact, I think the two were so close together that people started to use the word Lean Agile or Lean portfolio management within the context of Agile,
right,
to get the market more comfortable with the fact that these two are not contradictory.
Okay, all right. That makes a lot of sense. And Farah, final thoughts on this one?
Thank you, Nick. So totally agree with what Katy has just said right now, and it's kind of linked to the previous questions that we had on quality, because usually when you're like on a lean deployment or something, you start by the voice of the customer, and then you have what we call the critical to quality elements that needs to be pushed out, and that are the insights that you're going to start with. What I just wanted to add is that today, when you're using Agile, there are a lot of Lean tools that you use without even knowing that it comes from Lean. I take one example, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but there is something that is called the Obeya. Obeya literally mean in Japanese a room, like a war room, in which everybody will gather and discuss issues, discuss feedback, problems, and have like state-of-the-art discussions. And this is something that we usually do when we are doing daily meetings or when we are having like retrospectives, etc. And it literally comes from Lean. So when it comes to the relationship between those two concepts, it's kind of complementary. It has a DNA from Lean, and there are even a lot of tools that we use without even knowing that it comes from that.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, everybody, for helping me navigate my way through there. I thought for a moment I was heading off in a direction of naivety, but you've rescued me from my own incompetence again. So thank you very much indeed. Excellent news. So Jenny, if we can, please, be great to move on. Let's take our next question.
Absolutely. This one is from Agoho. This is a live viewer. How can an Agile manager promote its methodology in an organization that uses traditional approach on management on construction projects?
Yeah, no, it's a particularly interesting vertical industry, isn't it? You know, the built environment, construction in particular. There's always this thought about, if you're building a bridge, don't use Agile, and so on. For, you know, it's just used to illustrate different ideas. But I think conceptually, you know, construction can embrace a whole variety of applications of Agile thinking and methodology and work. It's just a matter of figuring out, how do you do that? And this is a brilliant question, Gogo. So thank you so much. Etienne, start us off. How can somebody who's a fan of Agile go about promoting it within that kind of environment?
Yeah, so that kind of environment isn't natural. It's not a natural fit for Agile. And this comes to a point that I made earlier about agility really as a spectrum. How agile do you want to be? And I would say bring in little pieces of Agile. So bring in a daily stand-up, bring in, working in not necessarily time boxes, but, have short planning sessions, have shorter feedback loops, bring in some of these ideas into your traditional approach. So you don't have to go full on everything Agile, but bring in the little bits that can add value to that traditional project environment. So little pieces.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, that's the way to win hearts and minds. Show those quick wins, show those things that can be done, and show how you kind of unglue the machine. Sometimes people get stuck, don't they? In all projects, people get stuck at certain points. Show how you can unstick the problem and get it moving by these little wins. Absolutely right. Thank you so much, Etienne. Farah, your thoughts on this one, please.
Thank you, Nick. So if we come back to the application of Agile within different sectors, construction, manufacturing sectors are the toughest. I mean, you usually say that when building a bridge or something, you cannot do it step by step. You need to have a full plan. You need to be in control of what you're doing. What I would suggest to the viewer that asks this question is deeper into one framework that is more and more used and discussed about, that is called BIM, B-I-M. Usually we say Agile BIM, which is a methodology that melts all topics related to constructions, whether it is buildings, bridges, or whatsoever, and the Agile principles and values. So you can find a lot of, let's say, interesting insights by digging into this new methodology that is coming, let's say, more and more into this field.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much indeed. And what a great question, Agogo. Thank you so much for asking it. One of the thoughts that I would have for you is I would go and have a look at a group they're actually based all over the world. They're called the GI Hub. All right. And I think it's gihub.org is the website that you're looking for. But these folks are all about big infrastructure projects, okay? Really big infrastructure projects. So they work with, they're part of the G20, okay? The group of nations who comprise the G20. And they encourage leading practice, best practice, if you like, emerging practice in the built environment through large infrastructure projects and how to do those really, really well. And how to bring the private sector and government kind of together. Now, they have a fantastic resource of case studies for you to be able to access. They're all online. Now, I'll just share with you, I started looking at this website a few days ago. 2 hours went by, I glanced back up at the clock, and I had one of those moments of what I would call evaporated time, because the case studies are actually really good. Okay, they're not dull, they're really good, well written, accessible, simple, straightforward, and so on. So even as a non-specialist such as myself, don't have an engineering background, it was actually a really good one to go. So thanks very much, social team, for finding the gihub.org link so quickly and putting that into the chat for us. And I know that we've got some other recommendations as well from the panel to follow up with. So excellent. Thank you so much. Indeed. Well, what a great question, Agogo. Thank you. We really appreciate it. Jenny, we've got to move on, I'm afraid. We're running out of time. So let's move on and we'll take our next question if we can.
Sure. Our next question is from Randall. What are the qualities of a good Agile leader?
Oh, what an excellent question to have. Farah, start us off. At least give us one or two of the great qualities or good qualities of an Agile leader, and then we will hear from Farah.
Okay. I would start with the two qualities that I think that are the most important ones. First, humility. That is generally coupled with growth mindset. And second, to be present for people and to be a kind of listener. An agile leader is always listening to their team, to their markets, clients, or even competitors. And of course, it's something that needs to be developed, let's say, by agile leaders.
Thank you very much indeed. Katy, your thoughts, please, on this, and then we'll hear from Ashish.
Brilliant. Like you said, Nick, I think we can all call out many. I would probably go quickly through the three that we actually teach, especially leaders at board level. That it's like the very most important qualities of agile leaders, especially at top level. One is clarity of vision and direction. When we talk about empowerment and enabling people to be able to just deliver value to the market and to their customers, it's really important that they are clear about the direction of the company and priorities. Again, going back to the example of the pandemic, one of the most important factors there was everyone knew making this work is priority number one. Direction was very, very clear. The second is what we call T-shaped leadership. And what we mean by that is every leader should think about the interest of the entire organization as opposed to their own silos. We see way too many times where leadership at different levels of organization really only think about their own silo. From agile leadership, we expect leaders to demonstrate behaviors where they are ready to sacrifice interest of their potentially part of the organization for greater good of the entire organization. And then finally, linked to servant leadership and empowerment and really moving away from command and control and to becoming enabling leadership that is there to remove impediments and blockers as opposed to commanding people.
Thank you so much indeed. Some great qualities coming out so far. I've just added one of those to my little list as well. So thank you. Ashish and then Nandhakumar.
Sure, I think quite a holistic list that Farah and Katy shared. Probably one that I would like to add is a lead by example. I think whatever you are trying to do, you have to demonstrate that, right? So if you're saying something, if you're asking and expecting something of your team members at any level, right? You could be the first line manager, or you could be somebody right at the top. I think leading by example is the most critical thing amongst all, right? And that's my personal favorite. So.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much indeed. And Nandhakumar, your thoughts?
Yeah, so obviously there are quite a bunch of qualities, and it's already been mentioned. But three things that come to my mind based on my experience as well is one is which is very important, is being transparent. I mean, transparency obviously leads to building a lot of trust. But again, I mean, it's the same thing what Ashish also said, leading by example. But I mean, building of the transparency kind of leads up to that. It gives a complete. It also kind of focuses on the vision, which has also been explained earlier. The two other things that come to my mind is one is being more open to possibilities. I mean, compared to a traditional leader, agile leader is expected to kind of being open to more possibilities, being open to more feedback, which kind of improves the overall delivery mechanism. And the last one, which is in my opinion also is the most difficult, is try to refrain from micromanaging. Micromanaging is something that typically leaders find it a bit difficult, and they're trying to move on to a agile kind of framework. Refraining from that would definitely kind of be displayed as a very good quality, and that would itself would help leader establish himself as a very good agile leader.
I think you're absolutely right, and the reason why we've kind of kept on that question for a little while and tried to get a fairly comprehensive list, and thank you panel, is because some of our experience is actually being echoed through the audience online. So Ali was talking about there being quite a gap sometimes, between the theory of all of this stuff and actually what happens in practice. And of course, if you're sitting in an organization observing and taking part in these things, you witness it on a day-to-day basis, don't you? So the theory sounds great. Putting it into practice is the tricky bit. And that's why, you have Level Up to be able to tap into. Now, I'm sure that our panel will welcome this. If you would like to connect with any members of the panel, then please just go to our website, apmginternational.com. Look for events, look for today's event, and then you'll find a little link through to the LinkedIn profile of each of the panelists. And, by all means, send them a little connection request and, introduce yourself and so on. I'm sure that they would be delighted to connect with you. All right. So really very good indeed. Thank you very much indeed. Jenny, I think we should move on. We'll take our next question if we can.
Sure. Our next question is from Stephanie. As a member of HR, I'm currently creating an Agile leadership program for our executives. Do you think I should include team members as well?
Okay, Etienne, go ahead, and then we'll hear from Farah and then Katy.
I think definitely. We were just talking about the differences between the theory and in practice, and it's difficult for the managers, it's difficult for the executives, but it's difficult for the teams too. It's a big change in this working environment. Suddenly we're being trusted to just get on with work, and we've never been trusted with this work before. So now what? I was having a discussion with a project manager yesterday, talking about some of the difficulties that we have when we're trying to do a daily stand-up, and the project manager wants to observe, and the whole team wants to give feedback to the project manager because they're in the room. And how do you deal with those kinds of things? So, dealing with this change is difficult enough for the executives, but it's also really difficult for the team. And I think it is important that we do this create these kinds of programs for our team members as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Farah and then Katy.
Well, first of all, thanks, Stephanie, for this question. I think it's really interesting topic to dig into. And let me tell you that asking yourself this question is a real good start. So whether you need to insert or to include team members or not. A lot of people think, as we said earlier, that Agile leadership is sometimes limited to executives, that they are, let's say, the head of the thing into the company. But the thing is that it would be better if you have the opportunity to draft a program that includes several learning paths for different members of your organization. Some people would need to focus on vision, on how to empower a team, how to be less in control mode. So that's meant for executives and managers, and others, team members, would need to focus on collaboration, on assertiveness, on whether their practices would be impacted or not. So it's a good question to ask yourself, and I would suggest to have, let's say, learning paths that are adapted for people that are executives and for people that are from the ground and in front line with the customers.
Absolutely right. Thank you very much. And Katy, final thoughts?
Thank you. I think Farah covered it beautifully well. And absolutely the 2 points I wanted to raise. Firstly, you definitely need to have it for different team members. However, bear in mind that different people will have different roles to play in the journey of agility, and therefore the content should be bespoke to the role they're playing in the organization. And secondly, I definitely recommend to start with the executive, making sure there is full buy-in and support for the program, and then cascades down quite fast after without losing momentum.
It's so important, all of those things. And don't forget that, we are all leaders. Okay, it doesn't come with, a job title. It's built into all of us, and we're often leading outside of our work and volunteering. We're leading in our families in many ways. We're leading in our friendship groups, and we're leading in our teams, as well as looking up the organizational structure for evidence. I think it's fair to say that individual contributors and people in the middle of organizations want to see evidence of agile leadership. So from a program perspective, developing those concepts, super important to consider people wherever they happen to be in the organization, both in the headquarters and also, importantly, out in the field if you have a distributed workforce working in multiple different locations. There's nothing that alienates people more than programs that only happen in one part of the world. So just consider that. I'm sure that you already have. So brilliant question, Stephanie. Thank you so much for submitting it. I think we might have time for one or two more questions if we're super quick. So Jenny, if we may, let's take our next question.
Sure, Nick. This is from Maria. Is agile leadership and servant leadership the same? If not, what's the difference?
Katy, start us off.
Sure. Servant leadership is definitely one of the characteristics of agile leadership. So very complementary. An agile leader is expected to be a servant leader, and as I mentioned, an enabler. There are other characteristics like, for example, clarity of vision. Yes, servant leadership is part of agile leadership.
Okay, I think, Katy, you've really nailed it there. One is part of the other, but what a really, really great question. And as we did that one quite quick, we could fit in. Oh, Farah, yes, please go ahead. Please give us your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, if I can just add something, as beautifully said by Katy, servant leadership is kind of, I would say, a leadership style that is meant to promote collaboration, leading by example, as we have said earlier, providing all the right environment. So if we go back and come back to our agile leaders, we can say that they use servant leadership alongside their knowledge of agile principles. It's kind of one of their, let's say, basic, let's say, leadership qualities or components that they would apply into the environment. It's not two different topics, they're just complementary. Agile leaders would use those servant leadership principles.
Thank you so much. And I think that that's helped to expand it a little bit and help us all, kind of understand it, the relationship there a wee bit better. So thank you so much, Farah. Great question. Thank you very much indeed for asking it, Maria, and putting it into the panel. I think we have time for one last question, Jenny.
Okay, that's perfect. We do have a live question. This is from Arun Sharma in Bangalore. Does multitasking make me an agile or a better leader?
Okay, Ashish, start us off, and then we'll hear from Katy.
Yeah, I think that's in my thought that's a misconception that if I am multitasking, I'm an agile leader, right? Being agile does not mean that you are doing multiple things and you're trying to do too much in too less time or working additional hours, right? That's really not being an agile leader. An agile leader is concentrated upon the fact that you are empowering your people, you are building a relationship where everybody knows what they have to do, right? I think Katy somewhere said that there's a vision that the leader must set for the team, right? That's what agile leadership is about, where you give the team a goal, you give the team a vision or a goal post, right? And then everybody's working towards it, and you are acting on the fence and looking around and ensuring that the team is working within the framework or the context that's been set. That's agile leadership. It's definitely, multitasking could be a part of your role, yes. Because as you move up the value chain and as you kind of head a BU or a business unit or a production line or whatever, you will definitely have different roles, right? So you will have looking at your production line, and at some point you're talking to your clients, yes. So you are wearing multiple hats. So that's part of your role as you move up the chain, but multitasking in its crudest sense is not being an agile leader. So that's my take.
Yeah, thank you so much indeed. Katy, super quick, please, and then Etienne.
Thanks, Nick. Firstly, I have to say I am very much a victim of multitasking myself, especially during pandemic and virtual working. However, multitasking is proven to be unproductive, actually. And if anything, I would say as an agile leader, you want to enable your teams to be able to focus on one thing, deliver the value before jumping to the next thing. As a principle of agile, running way too many strands at the same time actually takes away the focus your team need on delivering that value. And can reduce productivity.
Really does. It really, really does. Etienne, final thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think Katy kind of summed up what I was about to say as well. Really good point there. Multitasking has been proven to be unproductive. And one of the things that Agile allows us to do is to get more done by focusing on one thing at a time. And so because we're focusing on smaller pieces of the work, we're able to get more work done, but we can focus on one thing at a time. And again, we had that conversation about lean earlier. It's an idea that comes from lean as well, is that we want to standardize work and get these short little pieces of work done, and then we can get more kinds of work done without having to multitask.
Yeah, absolutely right. If you remember the Hollywood movie where I think it was called Big, where they were playing the piano in the toy store in New York, when one person's playing the piano by jumping up and down on the keys, you can't play, the full spectrum of the notes. But when other people join in and you focus on a little less, boy, can you make great music, have some fun, and be productive. So might be a little lesson in there somewhere. Very good. Well, thank you very much indeed. Wow, what amazing questions we've had today from our producers online. Been absolutely amazing. Let's get our closing remarks, please, from the panel. Ashish, if I may, I'm going to come to you first, and then Farah.
Sure. So, in my opinion, I think as you move towards being a leader or being in that position, I think self-introspection is very important. So, you should always start with some amount of self-understanding and self-awareness, and that helps you to understand where I want to be and what I need to be successful, and you bridge the gap in terms of the necessary traits that we spoke about. We had a question about the qualities, and we listed quite a few, right? So if you are self-aware, then you are able to understand, okay, these are the areas that I need to work on, and that kind of helps you to be a little bit more agile and a better leader.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Farah, and then Nandhakumar.
Yeah, so thanks all for your thoughts, and for the viewers also for all the amazing and challenging questions we had so far. My final thought would be that agile leaders are people that are, let's say, comfortable being uncomfortable. It's also people that are not, and agile leadership is not just for executive, it's something that should be nourished and cultivated throughout a company. Yeah? So agile leaders is not a position, it's kind of a specific way, I would say, on how leadership is enacted and a way to empower people and get them focused and involved. And this is what we want to do while promoting Agile.
Thank you so much, Nandhakumar, and then Katy.
Yes. So quickly as a closing comment, with the topic being leadership in agile environment, I think the crux should be more on human interactions. That would be kind of my closing comment, and I would like to, it's been reiterated multiple times, but let that be the key, and that would still be my closing comments, to focus extremely well on the human interaction.
Thank you very much indeed. Katy, and then Etienne.
Yeah, thank you very much for your great questions and great discussion. I've very much enjoyed this. And yeah, the most important thing I would reiterate is agile leadership is not for leaders. Every single individual in the organization, from the interns throughout to the exec, will need to demonstrate agile leadership for an organization to be able to go on through agility journey.
Thank you very much indeed. Etienne, and then Jenny.
I've been beaten to the punch again. But yeah, we are all leaders, and everyone in the Agile team, from the executives all the way down to the solution development team, we're all leaders. We all lead by example, and we can all help make Agile work.
Absolutely right. Thank you very much indeed, panel. Jenny, your first time in the hot seat as the question master today. How was the experience?
It was great, a lot of fun. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. And I do want to say thank you to the panelists for great answers and a great show today. Also to the viewers, and for sending in the live questions.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much indeed, everybody. And I absolutely echo that. And by the way, Jenny, great job on doing the QM role. It's kind of right at the heart of the matter, selecting those questions and getting them across to the panel really promptly. So thank you very much indeed for doing that. Great job. I'd like to thank our producers, of course, online for your excellent questions throughout the show today. Great job. And watch out for your name in the credits if one of your questions was selected. So over on our website, of course, you can search for the answers to the 1,400 or more questions that have been asked before you. It's a comprehensive free resource connecting you with more than 140 experts from around the world. Don't forget, you can listen to the audio version of the show on your preferred podcast platform. Now, Monday, we're going to take our last mini break of the summer before returning on Friday, the 2nd of September, to focus on how do you build winning public-private partnership teams. Monday the 5th, Labor Day over in the US, it's back to school for us here as grown-ups as we share the inside track on how best to prepare for your APMG examination and really level up your career. So subscribe to the show and we'll send you a personal summary of what's coming up and how you can join us too here on the panel. Thanks very much, everybody. We'll see you next time. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the YouTube video. It really does help us and it helps more people find the advice and the value that you've been accessing today. Thanks very much, everyone. We'll see you next time.